It is night 3 of the WEHL playoffs right here on the YouTube channel. And we're going to look at games 5, 6, and possibly game 7, maybe. And maybe at least one series, possibly. We'll see. Hi, everyone. T-Sibs with you. Chow is going to be here hopefully shortly. Pucker as well. Fort is with us. Knuckler's a little bit later on. And Fort, will start off with you since we've got you here. We've got actually, we do have Pucker. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were in the party, bud. My fault. Hard to keep track of everybody here. We've got games tonight. Couple of series might get decided in game 5. We'll see what happens. And, of course, we got Vancouver and Anaheim, who've been all over the place with scoring and have knotted that matchup at 2-2 right now. We'll take a look at the playoff grid right now as it stands. And you see the Blues ahead of Minnesota. We saw the Wild play to an overtime win in Game 3, but then losing Game 4. And so now they're on the brink of elimination, as is Pittsburgh and Ottawa. Meanwhile, we mentioned Vancouver and Anaheim tied at 2-2 in the series. And we have a special guest right now. Big Little Guy joins us, and I'll let Fort take it away for the interview. You guys go ahead while I try and figure out who's streaming these games.
What's up, Big Little Guy? You can, if you want to go ahead and kind of introduce yourself, kind of give the guys and the people watching, kind of give them, I guess, your position, a breakdown of who you play for and everything.
All right, I'm mainly the main center on the Montreal Canadiens. I will bounce to left wing occasionally, depending on availability. But I've been with them since we came on that team that was 4-14, 4-16 when Papper took over. And he messaged us and said, "Hey, you want to come join this league with me? I'm going to take ownership." And he was actually on my LG team, and I said, "Yeah, let's go." So I've been with them since day one.
What are some things that you're looking forward to tonight and your guy? Obviously the guys going into the final night of round 2 here. What are some things that you're looking forward to, or some things that you've kind of had to tighten up here on?
Honestly, the team, the line that plays tonight, the first game, if they could carry on what they did in the last game they did, and carry it on to here, they should have no problem playing the finishing off for us. The guys that are playing tonight are really good. They play well together. They know how to move the puck. I have a feeling they're going to be able to get it. It's going to be a close game. I mean, we may wake the Giant up. I don't know. Ottawa may come back out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you guys have kind of been the story to talk about around the league. What are your guys', how does that affect, not only you, but the morale of the team, knowing that, we do talk about you guys so much because, of your guys' backstory and what all has happened throughout the season?
Honestly, we don't take that in consideration at all. Like, I remember round 1, everybody said we would sweep Toronto. The first thing we did once we were all in a party and in our Discord was we told everybody, go in there a game at a time. We don't care if they say we're going to sweep them. We're not going to go in there and act like we're going to sweep them, because that could screw us up, get us big-headed, and we could actually lose the series. Let's go in there and play our game and do what we need to do.
I mean, really, it kept you guys humble, it seems.
Well, yeah, it was good. It was a great review. I mean, it gave us confidence for sure on it. Who on your guys' team do you guys think is going to make a big impact tonight? Is it going to be a goalie? Is it going to be a forward? Maybe even a D-man that steps up and is kind of the man that that you guys have, I guess, I mean, not really needed, but kind of to really put the hammer down. That one's tough. I mean, that one's really tough. Honestly, I think man, Ehans might have a great game. I think Ehans might have a pretty good game, and then our goalies. I mean, that one's hard. I mean, I don't like singling out players on my team.
No, yeah.
You know, but I think Ehans improved a lot through our playoff stretch. I mean, he had an amazing game last night. So, I mean, but our D and a goalie is what keeps us in the game. I mean, our forwards do their thing, and our D is always backing us up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, nobody, I mean, I don't want to say nobody, but a lot of people, you know, they kind of look past the defensive side of things. And from kind of what I've noticed is you guys have a strong defensive core. Do you guys, you know, do certain D pairings play together, or is it just kind of, you know, you don't really have set lines, everybody plays with everybody type of thing?
We try to have set lines. The thing is, I don't think we have a first or second line. What it is it depends on availability, and we mix them together. And that's what we do. I mean, we've had guys like that, Matt, bounce back and forth from right wing to right D. You know, it just depends on who's there, and we just make the best line as possible for that. I mean, that's all we do.
Yeah, I mean, what is your guys' line going into tonight's first game? Obviously, I mean, I don't know if I have it. I don't. You may know it.
Our line going into the first game is going to be the same line last night that played games 3 and 4, except we moved our lefty up to right wing because of availability. So it's pretty much the same line, except I think we put a right D in for him.
Okay, so you guys actually have a true right D now playing right D. Okay.
Yes.
Hey, do you know? I mean, obviously I'm a defenseman. From a defensive standpoint, I mean, you know, when you do get out of position, you know, you're trying a little harder to not make the mistake or not make as many mistakes. You know, do you think that'll affect, you know, you guys tonight having that true right D man back in the lineup?
Yeah, we'll be fine. The thing is, we talked earlier about our goalies helping us out with position-wise. If they see someone kind of like sleeping a little bit or kind of like coasting down the ice during plays, that they're gonna go. Like we talked about that with Fapper and Cap. They were both in actually our warm-up game prior, and we were seeing some of that stuff happen, and they brought that up.
You know, obviously you guys are going in playing obviously a strong Ottawa team. Ottawa's been one of those sleeper teams all season. What are you going into these final games in round 2 tonight? What are your just as a person, you know, what is kind of your guys' main concern? Is there one guy you guys want to kind of lock down, or is there, you know, just kind of play your style of play and, you know, just get on it quick? We're not worried about a single person or anything. We just need to stay with our game plan and keep the tempo the way we play. We change our tempo and adjust to their thing, their play style. We can't do that. We need to stick to the way we play, and that's it. I mean, there's probably a lot of butterflies and people nervous about it, but we need to go in there and play it as if it's a regular game. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, going into these final games, you guys are up 3-1 right now, I believe. Yes?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So going into the first game, you know, you guys want to close it out early, get the rest, so that way you guys don't, you know, you guys can kind of just enjoy the rest of the night, watch as things unfold here, you know, or is it, you know, whatever happens in the first game, you know, you guys kind of just going to feed off of that and, you know, go from there? Or is there like a plan, you know, hey, we're closing it out in the first game tonight?
that's our goal, is to close it out in the first game. We know anything could happen. Ottawa could give us a run for our money. I remember I was in games 1 and 2. The first game went to overtime. We had some issues in that game with everybody not playing the way we should have, which we could have improved. And I think we started playing the way we should have towards the middle of the third and overtime. So like anything's possible. Ottawa may show up and just wake us up and be like, holy crap. And then it's going to go to game 6. And then game 6 could go either way. But our goal is to try to finish it within 5 and 6.
Well, I mean, truthfully, every team wants to finish it early. Get that rest. Looking forward, what saying you guys make it out of the second round. Who are you guys looking forward to playing? Would you guys rather play a strong Detroit team, or would you guys rather play a real like nitty gritty Pittsburgh team?
Honestly, those are both 2 really good teams over there. They're between them both. It'd be a great series between them both because Days was on my line for the All-Star game, and I know he's really good. We met Detroit a lot during the season. Actually, I think towards the end they did a whole line change with people they picked up. Pittsburgh, I don't think I played against them or anything with any of them. But I watched the streams last night, and I watched their streams in the previous round. Between them both, it's like a tie. I wouldn't mind playing either one of them. It's going to be a good series, and it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, obviously everybody wants to come out and win their games tonight. Did you guys have any obviously you have already stated our lines, but did you guys have any problems with lines tonight, like last minute changes, or because I know you guys had that problem last night, and you guys had to go down on that. I think it was you guys went on the penalty kill to start off the first game, and that was like, that's pretty crucial,
Yeah, tonight we were already figuring out everything from games 5, 6, and 7 for any issues that happened. We had one guy that was 50-50 on it, and then he instantly messaged us and said he's making it. So like everything was fine. There was no scrambling around trying to panic and get people switching games 6 and 7 lines and everything else. So like everything went smooth.
All right.
That's good, Knucklers. Now that you're here with us, do you have any questions here for him?
No, I just got in here, so I don't know what you asked, and I don't want to repeat any questions. So.
Hey, well, I tell you what, we got games about ready to start up in Vancouver and Anaheim are already underway as we're starting to watch that game now. So I think we might be best to let Big Little Guy go. And listen, thanks for taking the time joining us today, and best of luck tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good job on this show you guys put on. I watch every bit of it.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it.
But all right, I'll catch you guys later. Have a good night.
All right, take care.
Best of luck.
Big Little Guy there joining us on the pregame. We do have at least one game underway. Detroit's searching right now. Montreal's missing a guy. I think they had a little issue trying to start up, so they're trying to get back. And St. Louis also waiting on one player. So one game underway. Hopefully one game about to get underway. And we'll take a look at these games as we go along here. Again, T-Sibs, White Knucklers is now here with me and Fort. So we'll have Pucker. He's dealing with some league stuff right now. Always a busy man. And when he's back on, he'll give a shout and let us know he's available. So, again, a fun night tonight. We're going to start looking at this game, Vancouver and Anaheim. No score, and get a feel about where this game is going to go. But, yeah, it's certainly we're going to have some fun with this one because there's I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of bad feelings in a short amount of time tonight.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of us had this series going Game 7, right?
Yeah, I think that was a lot of what we all had kind of said. I mean, these are two really strong teams, though. I mean, the whole series has been kind of back and forth, and I don't want to see. Obviously, nobody wants to go home early, and I think both of these teams kind of have the grit and the want to take it as far as they can.
Right.
Not sure who's streaming, but he's got to play with some energy. He's been out for quite a bit now.
I think that might be the center. I've kind of flopped around positionally all year, and this year it seems as if the center is just you don't get as much. It doesn't seem as if you have as much energy, to continue up and down the ice, be the first man in the zone, the last man out. It doesn't seem as if the center position really, it's definitely harder to play the center position this year, it seems.
This has to be a glitch, right?
I would think so. I mean, we got to watch and see if he glides at all. And if he glides,
I do see a little red there. Holy smokes. If any beginners out there listening, the key is to keep your energy, not keeping the red bar the whole, 17 minutes of this first period. So.
Yeah, our streamer for the Vancouver game had that there for a second ago. I'll get that back to you. Well, yeah. Well, Sync Smasher sent me the link. It's for the Dip 23. That Twitch, which maybe his as well, but I'm not sure.
I mean, I honestly can't tell because this is a build I don't see too often. I assume it's red. It's a little bit bigger. He's got the heavy hitter on. He's got the laser passing and the deflection. Interesting perks there, especially if he's a center.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of us played NHL 18 and throughout. I know the grinder was kind of the position to go to for centers in years past, and so maybe that's what he was trying to replicate was that grinder class. And I mean, I don't know, maybe.
People ask me all the time what build you should use, and I always answer them, make a build that fits your style of play, right? If you're a grinder, go with grinder, go heavy, whatever your role is on the line. If you're a playmaker and got to create space, pick a smaller build with speed, really build your guy around what your role is on the line.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is, kind of knowing, and knowing your role as, are you just a positional player? Are you one of the guys that can kind of dangle, have your way with the puck, or, are you that dig down into the corners and get the puck when you need it to? And I think that's what you see a lot of the guys that kind of struggle. Don't be afraid to try new classes, try out new things, and kind of learn from your mistakes in different class builds.
And it was cool how they changed it from 18, where you had probably 8 builds and they were all set. This year in 19, you could pick height, weight, put different perks on there, so it adds more variables to the game, which is definitely more interesting.
Yeah, it definitely makes it interesting for guys that, like, obviously that like to dangle, because you can be, a little bit smaller of a dangler, or, you can be kind of a taller, but, slim down kind of guy. But, yeah, it definitely adds an aspect of personality to the game. And I think that's kind of what EA was looking for.
I know in previous generations, they were wanting to go back to it. I didn't play 16 or 17, but I know people were asking for it, and we're happy that they brought the customization back.
Oh yeah, the years of the Sibs might know this. The years of the 7-foot snipers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's well, yeah. I mean, look, they do better, but we see Montreal getting on the board here first, taking the lead here late in the first period. Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's good intentions by EA. they've done good with what they're trying to do with each player class and their abilities, but for my liking, there's still a little bit too much of there's still too many glitch moves in my as a goaltender. I certainly have a huge problem with that, but I'd like to see them tighten that up a little bit, make it a little more realistic. But we can always hope and pray.
Yeah. I think their biggest, truthfully, one of the biggest things this year was that RPM skating. The real player movement. It kind of brings a feel of more, realism to it, but just not quite, the simulation that everybody's wanting.
Mm-hmm. So Detroit and Pittsburgh having some issues, a couple of DRs, so they're restarting. St. Louis.
How are my Blues doing?
Look like they're waiting and waiting and waiting. There's no searching right now, so they're still waiting.
I hope they can get it done tonight.
Right now we're looking at both games. Montreal, Ottawa, you see 1-0. Vancouver and Anaheim, no score, 11 minutes left to go in the second. We'll keep on these two, and we'll bring in some of the other two games if we get any start. But looks like I said, Detroit-Pittsburgh is going to be a few minutes before they even have a prayer of getting on the ice and playing this one. I kind of don't mind because it gives us something to talk about in between start times. Let's see. Yeah, looks like someone's missing from the Wild, so that game's going to have another problem starting up.
It's never easy, is it?
No,
apparently not. I wonder, well, it's Thursday. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what other leagues do. I know there's a league or two who are running playoffs right now, so I don't know if they play on Thursdays, but I think when there's more leagues going, I don't know if it's a lot more activity on the EA servers, but I think it's definitely, you've got multiple leagues in multiple websites going in playoffs, and that could put a little load on it, but it is early, so for league games and all that, so I can't imagine it's a network issue, but I mean
especially guys just getting off work and trying to get home or something of that nature. Obviously it happens. There's just some things you can't. There's some things you can't avoid, I guess you could say.
It would be nice when you can get into a game like in 5. Get set up and get into a game in 5 seconds. It takes at least a few minutes, and while that's not that's much better than what I used to have to deal with games a long time ago. I think you're going to see a couple of generations from now wondering why they can't get a game started in 10 seconds. At least that's what I'm hoping EA gets to eventually, or some other company.
Yeah, let's not, point fingers, but maybe 2K.
Well, everyone's been wishing for that for years, right? I mean, I'm not sure. I can't imagine somebody doesn't see the advantage of getting a better game in this market. There's no other competition. How could there be no other competition? It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, obviously, for years, they had both. You had options. Now it's all right. Every year, I'm gonna spend the $60 and I'm gonna buy an EA product. And that's kind of what everybody's kind of been at. And
right.
You look at what 2K is doing over, not only with the NBA, but just the storylines and the gameplay of some of their other games. I think they do like the wrestling game too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I could be wrong, but just kind of some of the things that they've done, and the advancements that they've made. It's truly something to kind of look out for. Here in the future, maybe they dabble back into the hockey scene, and maybe they've been working on it for a couple years and just haven't really fine-tuned it yet.
Right. See, still no score. Second intermission, Vancouver and Anaheim. 8-5 shots on goal for Anaheim, so not an awful lot of offense. A lot of possession for Anaheim, almost 5 minutes, but not a lot of opportunities. I'm thinking both teams right now with 3 games left to go. It's a short series. It's really, like I said, a 3-game series, and nobody really wants to make a mistake right now, and I think both teams playing a little bit cautiously as we've been watching this one. I think it's been slow play all around with that game. So now we see whether or not somebody decides to push it a little bit harder and take a chance and maybe make something happen. And we'll watch that game as it starts up the third period as well right now. So, again, both of those games going on, Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver, Anaheim. It looks like Detroit, Pittsburgh might be starting up here. St. Louis still waiting, I think, for Minnesota to be ready. So we'll see how that goes. But Pittsburgh, Detroit starting up here shortly.
Wonder if my brother's in the lineup. I haven't really talked to him today, but he's in the lineup. I like them finishing this off.
St. Louis you're talking, right?
No, Detroit.
Oh, Detroit. I'm sorry. Who's your brother? I can't tell. I can't see the names.
The professor.
Oh, the professor, right.
Oh, okay.
Looks like Pittsburgh is taking a penalty here, or they're trying to.
Looks like Anaheim just went up 1-0 on Vancouver. And I mean, really, like we've said, you know, I have almost no doubt that this series with Anaheim and Vancouver could go 7. You know, I mean, the series has been back and forth, and, you know, as we've seen, nobody really is kind of pushing the limits. And so it'll be kind of nice to see, you know, if that 10 o'clock game rolls around, if we've actually got one to watch.
But we can only hope as NHL fans that it goes to 7. There's nothing more exciting than that.
Detroit has a power play right now, as we mentioned, because of the penalty to Pittsburgh that they had to take to start the game, and they're trying to push. Can't tell if that is the professor on the left wing there, on the left defense, sorry. He hasn't done anything spectacular yet, so I'm assuming no. You know, I don't know if I'd seen him play until the last night, and now there's a goal as looks like the Canucks have tied this one up. But yeah, I mean, the first time I got to see him play, and yeah, I just amazed at that lefty that somebody has that much of an effect on a game is astounding.
Yeah, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, not only playing positionally, but as a defenseman, being as skilled at the game, you know, and being able to kind of take control when control is needed,
right,
is definitely a huge thing for a defenseman. Austin Burmeister says no professor in the game 1 there, so
doesn't look like it now.
Interesting. So I very well could see that going to game 6 then.
Pens have just taken a 1-0 lead. We'll show you that game here shortly. And we definitely want to get you to Vancouver and Anaheim for the end of that one, since it's an interesting game. Under 18 minutes left to go, Minnesota, St. Louis, no score. That game has finally started up as well. Maybe we'll,
That's what I was going to say. It seems like Minnesota was having a lot of connection issues, and so they finally got it in. St. Louis was calling for the forfeit. I'm glad they went ahead and played the game.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I've talked about this in other leagues. You play the game if you can. You don't. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel.
My team was considering the forfeit.
Yeah, they in the chat was saying that they were going to take the forfeit. I told your owner, I said, play the game. You guys are probably going to win anyways. Just play the game.
Wow. I don't condone that behavior. I'm all about playing the game. That's why we play, right?
All right. That's what I say.
It's playoff hockey. That's what everybody's here for. You know, let the guys get their stats. Let the guys get the experience. You know, that's what it's all about.
All right.
So I'm glad they're playing.
I'll have a little chat with them later.
I think the triangle one works best for you, Sibs.
Yeah.
I'm watching you like flip through them, and I'm like, okay.
I'm giving you the 3 games that I can give you right now. I'm having a little bit of an issue trying to bring up the Detroit game, I think, is the one I'm having a problem with. So, but we'll show you that in a second. Detroit just scored to tie it up. Second is ending for Montreal and Ottawa, with Montreal still leading, looks like 1-0. We'll get you over to Detroit. We'll look at this game for a little bit here. St. Louis has just scored to go ahead 1-0, 12-13 left to go in that period.
to say, I think the center on Vancouver, I think it is that we're watching, has to be glitched out. If you look at the icons at the bottom of the screen, they're all lit up for these other guys that on the other streams they're watching. And on his stream, it's all grayed out. So I think it's got to be a glitch. He's been no energy for 3 periods. So hopefully for him, it's a glitch.
I mean,
yeah, hopefully.
It does look like a pretty big build, though, too. It doesn't look like he's that small. So I mean, I don't know. I don't see his name showing up either, which is oh no, I actually it does now, but it didn't earlier.
Looks like we have a few comments here. If you guys want to get involved in,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, ask us any questions. Tell us what builds you like. Get involved in the conversation.
Yeah, we've posted the YouTube channel. Obviously, you're watching it on YouTube or on Twitch. But go to the YouTube channel for WEHL Sportscast. If you don't have the address, type that into YouTube. Look us up there. We're live right now with the show. And Anaheim now down in this game 2-1 late in the third. You see Pittsburgh with their 2-1 lead right now. I think we're going to get you to the Anaheim-Vancouver game for the end of this one, at least the last couple of minutes. 2 minutes left to go in the third with Vancouver just scoring and going ahead now. See whether or not Anaheim can get themselves back into this.
Vancouver's along the wing at center ice. He's got that pass and could look ahead. Missed another.
Now, from our discussions, it sounded like Anaheim was the favorite in this series, correct?
I mean, yes and no. You know, like I've said before, you know, obviously the series has kind of been back and forth. But I think in the regular season, Anaheim was the better team. You know, and I think Anaheim has really got what it takes to, you know, kind of finish it. But, you know, again, you know, after this, it looks like they're gonna have to.
Vancouver taking that one 2-1. We see the final there. We'll flip on over and take a look at Minnesota St. Louis here for a little bit. And get you back to Detroit, Pittsburgh as well, Ottawa, Montreal. That might be the next game that comes to an end. They're in the third period with Montreal still holding on to a 1-0 lead. And we'll get over that game and show you that one shortly.
The dreaded goalie stream. Hate to see it. It's a good it's a different perspective for sure, but
never fun.
Especially when he's not involved, zooming away from himself. There you go, buddy.
We'll end the first period's ending there, and we'll get you over to Montreal and Ottawa here shortly as well.
Minnesota ended up having to take 2 penalties at the beginning of this game. I'm surprised that St. Louis wasn't able to capitalize more than just 1 goal in the end of this first. But, you know, anytime you can get a goal from a power play, you're happy with it. But when you've got a 5-on-3, you really like to take advantage of it and get 2 goals.
You see St. Louis is 1-0 after 1. You see Montreal is a 5-minute power play right now. And a chance to extend this lead. Tough time to take one for Ottawa. Let's see what they can do. They need to kill it, but, you know, at the very least kill it, maybe get an opportunity. But Montreal, at the very least, should be able to kill a lot of time. And if they play defensively smart, at least they won't be. They'll be able to kill 5 minutes pretty easily.
Yeah, and 5 minutes are killers for multiple reasons. You can keep scoring on the power play, right? And it burns energy. And as we know, when you're penalty killing, the energy goes back slower. So towards the end of that penalty kill, that energy's gone and more scoring chances occur.
Almost midway through the second, Pittsburgh still leading Detroit 2-1.
Sibs, you're a goalie. All right, so in our YouTube chat, I asked what was everybody's favorite player build. Steel City said goalie, no perks. How do you feel about that? You know, just
seems
kind of
like a troll.
kind of seeming, like a just straight goalie.
I tell you what, yeah. First of all, I am as mediocre, middle of the road goaltender as you can get. And I tell you what, I also watch a lot of streams and look at the guys who I know have put a lot of time into looking at builds, playing around with them, playing with different attributes, what works for them. I try and keep it simple. I try and make it so that I'm playing to what I think I need help on. And it's funny, I get into parties and people are like, you play stand-up? Like, everybody plays hybrid. I'm like, yeah, because I find that I have not a lot, but a little better chance of dealing with high shots that way. And if there's one thing I have a problem with, at least historically, has been high shots. And so I try and use stand-up. I try and use the calming attribute. And I think there's one for, like, penalty kill as well. I try and keep it very simple. I'm not worried about if I'm, playing the puck out well or all that crap. I do stand up. I'm not worried so much about quickness. I just want to be able to stop the shots I need to. If there are cross creases happening and happening one after the other, then to me that's the defense's fault. It's not my fault if they go in on a cross crease. If the guy's being passed to and not being covered, that ain't on me. That's how I feel about it.
You mentioned the penalty kill perk. I don't know if that's the one where you regain energy.
I think so.
After the penalty kill.
Yeah.
I absolutely love when goalies do that for me. It is such a boost.
Oh yeah.
You see, Montreal, just taking a 2-0 lead here in this game. Go ahead.
I mean, especially after as we were saying, Montreal's on the had that big old 5-minute.
And now 3-0. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, having that, it gives your guys a boost right away. As soon as that penalty is done, as soon as you killed it off, your guys are right back in it. You don't have to wait a minute. You don't have to wait, until you get a minute to kind of, ease and glide your way down ice. But, you can get right back on it, if you're down like this.
Right.
And Ottawa's just taking bad penalty after bad penalty. They're down 3-1 in this series, and if they don't find a way to get a lot of offense in the last 7 minutes of this game, they're going to find themselves golfing in the next week.
Pittsburgh, after 2, still up 2-1 in that game. We see St. Louis still leading Minnesota 1-0 halfway through the second period. And, of course, this game right here, and we see Montreal again with another goal. So 4-0 now with almost 6.5 left to go, and that's going to be a tall order for Ottawa to get back into this one. Montreal 6.5 minutes away from closing out their series.
And Montreal looked the entire time of the series of being the aggressor, being the better team. So it doesn't surprise me that they're playing so well in this game, and they're setting themselves up for a very good chance of closing the series out.
St. Louis has just gone up 2-0 in their game.
Let's go.
Free Aubrey with the goal on that one.
I think that is everybody's name.
Is it?
I don't know.
I hate when people do that.
We've kind of talked about that whole situation on our podcast. Everybody has their opinions about it. It is what it is. It's happened. It's done. You can't quit. You got to quit bringing it up. You just gotta live with it, deal with it, and. It happens. There's nothing you can really do.
Sure. Minnesota just scoring now. Now it's 2-1 St. Louis. 5:20 left to go in the second. You see Montreal on their way to closing out and going to the Eastern Conference Championship, up 4-0 against Ottawa. get you over to Detroit, Pittsburgh shortly as well. Get you looking at both the games once this Montreal game is done. Detroit, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis, Minnesota.
I mean, it's pretty clear cut and final here, and with the Montreal game, what are your guys' kind of predictions on Montreal? Do you think they've got what it takes to kind of carry this, carry the chance that they've taken all season to a Stanley Cup, or do you think it kind of falls short in the next round?
It would be a hell of a story if they do pull it off. I think whoever they play, whether it's Pittsburgh or Detroit, it's going to be a great series. And that looks like a 6-7 game series to me. So whoever they get, I'm going to be excited to watch, and everybody else should as well.
Final seconds ticking off as you see Montreal and Ottawa, with the Canadiens about ready to move on here. And final seconds tick off. Ottawa at least kept it close for the first few games. Won their one game, 3-2. That was game number 3. Lost the first game 4-3 in overtime. So after the first 3 games and losing 4-1 in game 2, it looked like Ottawa might still be able to have a chance. But losing 7-3 in game 4 last night, now losing 4-0 here in game 5 as you see that one finish out. We'll head on over to Detroit and Pittsburgh now and take a look at that game as you see third period, 7:27. We'll keep an eye on this one for a while and bring this to you and check on their feed a little bit here.
Into the end of attack. Fires.
Backhand.
Moving it to Timms. Good place to shoot from, and he does. And a save. Shoots. Oh, what a terrific save in close. Equal to the challenge. Nice stop. Shoots. He scores. Second of the game.
And Pittsburgh getting on the board with another one.
This is ridiculous.
A little under 5 minutes to go. And so with the scoring of that goal, their lead is a pair.
What the hell was Connor thinking, man? Fuck.
Timms is looking towards center from his own end.
As you can hear in the party, a little negativity going on. That's not good for Detroit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, definitely,
This is ridiculous. I don't know what the hell he was thinking.
Pittsburgh's definitely getting under the skin there, and it's definitely that's not something that you want there coming finally trying to finalize a series. You don't want it to get to you too much and let it eat at you.
Especially when you're mic'd up on the broadcast.
Well, they don't think they know that so much. We'll kind of turn it down this a little bit so these guys don't piss off each other. don't want to add to a team's demise. So,
right.
I mean, but Sibs, who doesn't love a good mic'd up?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If they know they're mic'd up, sure.
Right. I can see it now. Somebody from Detroit's probably watching the stream. Guys, you are going off, and everybody can hear you.
If they haven't, they will. And we apologize, but we'll keep that down so they can. And we would encourage guys to share the stream for sure, but just leave your party audio out of it when you're doing it with us. This way, you can do that without affecting your party. So, if you don't know how to do it, let me know. You can look it up online in 2 seconds and do that. But looks like Pittsburgh is on their way to a Game 5 victory and getting the series now to 3-2 in favor of Detroit.
I think, as we've kind of just touched on, the negativity. I mean, if Pittsburgh can kind of keep getting under their skin, come Game 6, I think maybe we might be in for a ride of a Game 7.
Detroit with a quick goal here. Can they get one more in 7.4 seconds? They're going to try. Good quick shot, but blocked. And now Pittsburgh flips it around, and they'll get away with this one with a 3-2 victory. And Detroit now leading 3-2 in this series. We'll take a look now at the only other one that's still available to us, and that is St. Louis and Minnesota. as that game's still underway right now.
And all those bettors who had the puck line, which is -1.5 on Pittsburgh, are not happy with them right now.
Oh, no.
So I believe that puts Detroit's top line at 1-2 in the series. So, and I know they struggled round 1, so they're just not clicking. Hopefully that second line can come through Game 6, and they'll have to regroup if they do make it to the conference finals.
I'm going to say the benefit that the second line has is the anchor leadership with, the professor being there. He won't let that stuff go on in the chat, I don't think. I think he would shut that stuff down.
Yeah, he's definitely no stranger to big clutch games, so I expect a big performance out of him coming up.
So 3 series still left to play here, and depending on what St. Louis can do here with a 3-1 lead in the series and a lead in this game with almost 10 and a half minutes left to go, can Minnesota come back and keep the series going? We'll see. At this point, halfway through the third, and now they got a 5-on-3 opportunity for the next 114. As well as they've played St. Louis, even keeping them at 3 goals at this point is not awful. You would prefer to be at 2-1 right now, obviously, and that would have been a better situation if they can only give up a goal per period. But having to be down by 2 right now, but they've got an advantage here, and can they take it? Can they take it and do something with it, keeping it in the zone? Not getting great opportunities, and their cross creases are not connecting just yet.
This is a pivotal 5-on-3. If they don't score here, I see the Blues closing this out.
10 seconds left on the 5-on-3. They're moving the puck well, but just not getting really good opportunities on a 5-on-3. And that says a lot for the 3 guys on the ice right now.
Yeah, I think
and there's one that trickles in. Sorry about that. Wow.
No, you're good.
That is just a puck, and that goes to throwing a puck on net. Minnesota does that, catches the goaltender off his post, and he's able to put one behind him. Now Minnesota down by 1.
And what's big about that is they scored when it was a 5-on-3 when just seconds were left on it, so they still have a power play 5-on-4 here.
Sorry, Ford. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're good. It's like I've told a lot of guys that I play with, teams I've played on. When you get into the 5-on-3 situation, you don't want to rush it. You want to kind of slow it down.
Right.
Get your forward set. Have either one guy, work it behind the net. Kind of work it out in front. Something like that. You don't want to rush it, and obviously just put something on net. It'll happen.
And another goal, and Minnesota has tied this up. 3-3. Relentless work by the Wild to make something happen. It did not look good for a while there, but Minnesota able to do something with this and get tied up now. Maybe an OT.
I am getting the thumbs ready as you speak.
I think St. Louis's firepower, they'll find a way to close this out in this game, but if they don't, I have no doubt that White Knucklers will get it done in the next game and lead his team to Game 6.
And a wraparound goal after a good defensive play to stop a 2-on-1, but a loose puck quickly picked up and wrapped in, and Minnesota has gone ahead 4-3.
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to see Knucklers leave the party.
No, I'm here with you, boys. But I'll have Clutch on my left side, so be me and him, and we're gonna try to carry.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys have the experience. You guys have been in big games like this before. You get 2 chances at it. I'm sure you guys are the top line, so you'll get 2 chances at it if Minnesota finds a way to force a Game 7. But I don't see with your firepower, you guys them being able to do that.
From your lips to God's ears.
But apparently I was way wrong on the series, and Minnesota has fought back the whole way.
Wow.
I called Minnesota winning in 4, and they are. I mean, St. Louis went in 4, and Minnesota is definitely making the series interesting.
You know what, Pucker? I saw a little video that Minnesota put out, a little hype up video, and they had your voice over there, and fired them up with it.
Well, I'm sorry to put fuel on the flames for Minnesota against you, but at least it's making it a fun series.
Hey, you're a click machine, so keep bringing the hot takes.
Wow, that was.
And St. Louis pulled their goalie. I mean,
Nice play.
you know, you're not down in the series, but you know, I mean, you definitely want to finish it. It just doesn't.
What?
I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, it's a bold move. It's a bold move, but you know, obviously, we'll see if it pays out.
And
If I
Minnesota
was in that game, that would not be happening.
Minnesota has taken this game 5 and have pushed it now to 3-2 in favor of St. Louis. And wow, down 3-1 in this game with, what was it, about 8-9 minutes left to go? A double power play, but struggling for a bit with a 5-on-3. Finally getting one late on the 5-on-3, and then eventually just able to get themselves right back into this, tie the game up, and then just took over offensively. That may be some of the best offensive hockey we've seen Minnesota play so far.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I was going to say, you love to see that too. It's so easy to get down on yourself when you're in that situation. You're down in the series, you're down in the game, and it's really easy to do what Detroit was doing. Chirp your teammates, say, you know, get down on why everything's not going right. But Minnesota didn't. They buried they did what they needed to do, and they were able to find a way to win that game. And that's exactly what they needed to force this game 6.
Yeah, I mean, you know, from the start of the series, I've said that if Minnesota did come out, you know, and make a statement, then, you know, it was basically going to be a walk-on, you know, for St. Louis. And I think that, you know, maybe that game, you know, coming back from that deficit to win the game, maybe that's a confidence booster for those guys over in Minnesota.
Well, we'll see.
Gotta be.
Yeah, we'll see what we can get as far as the stream is concerned here. Hoping to, hopefully show you the playoff grid here in a second. But we'll be on here for the games that are supposedly starting in 15 minutes, maybe sooner. As soon as we get any streams, we'll get them up to you. T-Sibs, Fort is here with us, Knucklers, and Lucky Pucker as well tonight. So we appreciate you guys joining us. And we see Detroit... Pittsburgh fighting back. We see Minnesota fighting back. Really two teams who, I think maybe a lot of people thought they were going to get closed out in Game 5 tonight. I saw some of that talk going on. Of course, a lot of it's always smack, but interesting to hear people think it was going to close out quickly. We shouldn't be surprised, right? Minnesota's been fighting the whole series, week 1 of the playoffs. They're fighting in this one. And Detroit and Pittsburgh are pretty evenly matched. You got to figure at least that series was going to go probably 6. But, Minnesota continues to fight every game. And I don't think anybody should be that surprised that they've gotten a Game 6 at least out of this.
No, I mean, obviously, both teams have been fighting hard, but, Minnesota has just found a way to kind of rally their guys, even down. In the first round, they lost a big game, to Seattle, and they came back and, won that series, and then they lost, I think it was like 11-1. Yeah, 11-1 in the first game of this series, and have just, have battled this entire playoff series there. And I think we're in store for, a good Game 6. And, I'm hoping for 2 Game 7s tonight.
Yeah, it's quite a different picture than what we were looking at yesterday. Did not expect Minnesota to be able to find what they needed to do to get it done, but they were able to, and I'm glad for it. I still don't think they'll make it past Game 6, but I've been saying that the whole way, and they've been proving me wrong. So maybe they're able to prove me wrong one more time and force that Game 7. It'll be fun to watch.
What are we looking for tonight in the rest of these games? Let's talk a little bit about Anaheim and Vancouver, with the Ducks now leading this 3-2. I think we thought maybe, they had the better team overall, might be a more balanced team, but Vancouver, fought back a bit last night. Anaheim came away with a Game 4 blowout of 7-0. Do you think that has led to Anaheim, regrouping tonight and trying to put that behind them? What do you think is going to happen for the last, maybe Game 6, but maybe up to a Game 7 with this series?
I think the blowout, that Vancouver took in Game 4 kind of, I think it lit a fire, that look like we're better than this. We're not in the second round for no reason here, and kind of, I think it really ignited those guys to come out, win that first game tonight, and maybe they can take that fire and continue on to a possible Game 7, or even finishing the series out.
Yeah, I expect Anaheim to come out blazing in this Game 6 and find a way to win it, and then enforce a Game 7. I'd be shocked if Vancouver is able to get out of here in 6, but they've been able to play some pretty good games. I think it'll mainly depend on who did the better job of strategically matching the team up to give them the advantage in Game 6, and hopefully Anaheim left some of their first liners to play Game 6, and if they did, they'll have a good chance to tie the series up one more time.
Yeah, we are, again, still about 10 minutes away from games starting up again. And, again, just to recap, as you see the scores, we happy to bring you the scoreboard here and how things have played out in this series so far. The 2-1 win by Vancouver in game number 5. This game was 0-0 after 2. It looked like it was a bit of a game where nobody was making big plays, trying to do anything too drastic. And then third period, we finally got a little bit more of offense to break out, and Vancouver were able to take this game and keep themselves alive. Meanwhile, we just saw Minnesota down 3-1 in their game come roaring back. 3 unanswered goals, 1 on a power play, and then a couple just after St. Louis needing to kill a 2-man disadvantage for them. And but Minnesota seemed to gain a lot of confidence from that and just started playing a lot better for the remainder of that third period. And like I said, probably played the best hockey we've seen them play and move on to a 4-3 victory in game number 5. We saw Pittsburgh and Detroit again, another close game, another 1-goal game. 3 of their games have been 1-goal games in this series so far. And this time, Pittsburgh coming out ahead 3-2 in that matchup. And we saw Montreal close out Ottawa with a 4-0 shutout. Good way to end that series for the Canadians. Give Ottawa a lot of credit for staying in it and playing hard. So we are waiting now Game 6s in 3 of these series. And guys, let's talk a little bit more about what we expect to see from Detroit and Pittsburgh, again, we close games all the way through. I think we feel like it's been a tale of two different series within one. We saw Detroit struggle against Pittsburgh early on, trying to keep them off the scoreboard. The first game was almost impossible, and then the second game they had a bit of an advantage. Pittsburgh comes roaring back and falls a goal short in Game 2, and we were thinking, okay, maybe Pittsburgh knows how to play these guys, or it could be a line matchup, who knows, but let's see what happens in Game 3 and 4, and again, Detroit came back, played a strong Game 3, got by a goal in Game 4, and we're saying, okay, is the tide turning now? Well, now it looks like Pittsburgh again tonight, taking advantage and taking a 3-2 lead. Is it really a line matchup in these games, guys? Is it truly based on that between Detroit and Pittsburgh? Is it that they have some really solid lines, and if they get the right matchup, they're going to win?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I think when you got as experienced guys on either team playing, and they're not playing against each other, I think that's when you get those mismatches, and that's why we've seen this series go back and forth. The other thing I've been impressed with about Pittsburgh is they've been kind of mixing up their forecheck. They're not always just a strictly trap team, and a lot of times in the playoffs, everybody tightens down and gets 5 back at the blue line. At least at the first period of Game 4, they were in a solid, aggressive 1-2-2, and just really putting a lot of pressure on the defensive players. And remind me, Sibs, did they end up winning Game 4? I think they did. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing from them and mixing it up, not just doing just the trap or just the aggressive. They're throwing a few curveballs at Detroit, and Detroit has been able to, at least out of 3 times, been able to answer those curveballs. But Pittsburgh's definitely keeping it interesting.
Yeah, Detroit took Game 4. It was another one-goal game there, 4-3. They took both games last night, and games 2, 3, and 4. Again, looked like Detroit was winning, making the plays when they needed to, and really playing more their style of game. Pittsburgh struggling a little bit, for them, putting up 7 goals in just those 3 games. They put up 6 in the first game, and then put up 7 in the next 3 games. So, and again, 3 goals in this game number 5. So Detroit's not playing them too badly. They just struggled a little bit in this game, getting offense going, and they've been able to put up 4 goals twice, 5 goals once, and then 3 back in Game 1. So I think we might want to give Pittsburgh a little more credit for Game 5, playing Detroit a little bit more defensively, and really more of a balanced game for them, where they're not trying to put a lot up, and they're playing a little more defensively. I think you're seeing that with some of these teams. They're adjusting as the series go on, and they say, okay, we know we could put up 5, 6 goals in this team, but why should we put ourselves out there and take that chance? And so we've seen a few of these teams. We definitely see Minnesota doing that, pulling back and trying to play a little more defensively and wait for the opportunities to happen, because it's a good chance somebody on the other side is going to get a couple of jumpy thumbs, and before you know it, you might have a 2-on-1, a 3-on-2 opportunity, and you can take advantage of it. And I think that's smart. If you can do that in this game, if you can wait it out and play solid defense, and maybe plan to have a winger jump up on the boards when it looks like you're going to get possession, that kind of thing. I think that's the better way to play offense in this game, unless you're just so overpowering. And we'll see if St. Louis does that in game number 6 tonight. Are they going to just be so ridiculously overpowering when Knucklers and Clutch are out there and their line, where Minnesota just has to weather the storm and pray they get something happening magically? It'll be interesting to see how this one gets played out, because that is just a tough line for Minnesota to have to deal with.
Yeah, boys. Nicely said. Got to hop off. Got this big game. Feeling good. So, and hopefully we get it done. Enjoy.
All right, get us a stream, bud.
Yeah, I've got some breaking news.
RV is streaming.
I got some breaking news on the Minnesota-St. Louis game.
Oh, yeah.
I just got a message from the Minnesota owner. They're saying that we might have to forfeit. We can't get 6 guys to play.
Oh, wow.
I said, go get an ECU. I don't care. Get somebody in the game to play. This is Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You cannot forfeit. Figure it out, buddy.
Come on, Minnesota. Figure it out. Let's go. I'm ready.
This is when I feel for GMs, if it's not their poor planning, if they've been trying all day, if it's been a struggle to find guys today. If guys are saying they're available and all of a sudden just aren't available, I don't get that. I mean, I've seen it happen with some teams, and it's just ridiculous. You're in the playoffs. You've committed to the season. I don't understand how you're not committed to be there to play for these games.
And he just got back to me. He said, "Nah, we good." So hopefully Minnesota will put a line out there and give us this Game 6 that we've been dying to see. Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. It's so frustrating when you've been playing with a guy all season long, and then for whatever reason, they either decide that they don't want to be on the team anymore, or other stuff comes up that's more important. And I get life happens, but many times it's not that. It's just chemistry, like bickering amongst teammates. And I've seen people skip playoff games for it and lose the series, and I don't understand it.
Well, again, we're just waiting here. We'll hopefully get something going and get some streams to show you. But until then, any other thoughts about what we saw here in game number 5? We saw a lot of good action, and I think one takeaway that we really haven't discussed is how well Montreal's played. Do you think they care who they play next round, Detroit or Pittsburgh, or are they playing that good at this point?
Yeah, I think that they probably do have a preference. I think honestly, both Detroit and Pittsburgh are solid. But I think that if I put myself in Montreal's shoes, I think if I had to choose between the two of them, I would want to face Pittsburgh. Just because they've struggled a little bit against Detroit when their better lines out. Montreal's proven that they've got the offensive firepower and the defensive firepower to slow another team down, and would also still continue to put points up. So I think the matchup for Montreal probably the favorite against Pittsburgh. And then if you throw them up against Detroit, I think Detroit, depending on the line matching, if the owner does a good job, I think Montreal will have a tough time with Detroit's first line.
Some teams are starting to line up now, and hopefully we'll get something going here quickly for game number 6 tonight. Again, possible game 7 in all of these series coming up. So stick around. We'll see how this plays out. And again, some really good series going on. We appreciate everybody for providing streams tonight. We'll be back next week to do that as well for the semifinals. And then we'll be around for the finals. We'll try and actually call those games to the finals, providing we get streams as we've been getting. And so far it's been pretty good. People have been very very supportive in helping us out. So we thank everybody for really being part of media. When you do something like this, you're helping us out tremendously. You're helping out the league. And trust me, those of us do media, there's a lot of work. When you guys help to do something to make it easier for us, we are incredibly appreciative of it. And certainly we also thank you for all the subscriptions there on the YouTube channel. Hitting 500 last night. Now we're a few over it at this point, and that makes us feel like we're doing something worthwhile, so we thank you for that.
So the lineup for Detroit and Pittsburgh is out now, and it looks like Detroit's going to come out at left wing with Bear, who has been very boisterous in the shout box. So we'll see if he can put his money where his mouth is and win this game 6 for Detroit. His center of this game is going to be your nephew's stepdad, or new stepdad is. And then right wing is Zomboid, and Zomboid's had a pretty good series so far. In the backside, left D, Professor Morena, who's a solid anchor defensive man who will definitely help keep the Pittsburgh Penguins at bay and out of the zone. And his defensive partner in this game is TJ Army. And then the Burmeister is back in net, going to try to keep the Pittsburgh Penguins away from being able to score in this game 6. And then Pittsburgh's lineup is going to be, left wing is going to be Beaver. At center, we've got Caper. At right wing, we've got Mafio. Left D is Harrison. Right D is Pedro. And in net, they're going to have Alwyn. So it'll be interesting to see how these two teams match up here. And hopefully it's an exciting game 6.
Anaheim and Vancouver look like they're about to get going. We'll see if this one actually starts up. If it does, we'll go there. and start bringing you the call of that game there. Meanwhile, the other ones are also starting to get going. We may not get Anaheim, Vancouver. Looks like they may have been stalled out a bit here. We'll see.
One series that I've just really enjoyed watching over these last 4 games. It just both or 5 games now actually. They're just very defensive most of the time, and it's been a lot of fun watching those two match up against each other.
A little, certainly they lost somebody there on that Vancouver game, so they're going to have to back out again and try it one more time. Minnesota, again, waiting for a couple of guys to show up, but they supposedly going to have everybody. They've got 4 right now. We'll hopefully see a few more show up. Once we get something on Detroit-Pittsburgh, we'll show that to you, but right now, still looking for a stream on that one.
And I'm just hammering out some details on how the Minnesota and St. Louis game is going to get started up. Since the Minnesota is making a substitution and it's late, they're going to at least have to take 1 penalty, and depending on the situation, they may find themselves down on a 5-on-3. So I'll be right back with you guys once we get this figured out.
All righty.
You're good. So it looks like Ottawa has taken, or Montreal. Montreal took the, what is that? What division is that? I gotta. No, it's not the Pacific, is it, Sibs?
No. It's in the East. I'm trying to remember what it was. I haven't memorized everything in this. I haven't memorized every division just yet.
So it looks like some of Montreal's guys are tuning in and they're watching now. So just a big congratulations to them. I mean, they, obviously have fought diversity all season. Big story of the league. You came in, overtook ownership, and turned the whole team around. You can get more details of that and us talking to the owner of Montreal on one of our past podcasts, and they are in the Atlantic Division. So
right. But remember, we've got because of the way the last couple of teams get into the playoffs. Detroit's also in the Atlantic, and they're still alive. So I guess you just you have to wait until you take the conference. Unless Detroit gets knocked out, I guess you could say they're the best in the Atlantic. But Detroit also comes out of the Atlantic. So yeah, it's and I find how did you, when you heard how the playoffs were going to be laid out and how the last couple of teams were going to make it in, what was your feeling on that? Do you like that? Do you think it's maybe a little more fair instead of just going based completely on divisions?
I mean, to be honest, last season we did it full divisions, from my understanding. The top 4 in every division made the playoffs. Truthfully, I like the top 4 in every division.
Right.
It really does kind of, how do I say this? It definitely, it brings an atmosphere of, okay, we have to be in the top 4 in our division.
Right.
You're not going to take 5 or 6 from one division and 2 from another. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Sure.
I think it's, to be honest, at that point, you'll have obviously, every playoff series or playoffs, which we haven't seen them yet in this one, but you'll have a sweep, or you'll have something that just doesn't kind of match up right, obviously. But to me, I'm not a big fan of the way it's set up. Obviously I would much rather it be the top 4 in every division and, play it out like that. But that's a personal reference, for me.
All right.
What about you, Sibs?
I like it. I think it's different. I think it's good to try things in these leagues, especially the first season. I think if you do, you're starting up a league like this, there are things about other leagues that people don't like. And I think if you could do a few things that might seem different, that might be, let's see how it works out. Let's figure if it's worthwhile doing. And then, then you go from there. And I think it's good when you're starting out in the league to do something different. And to say, look, we're going to try some things, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but we're not afraid to try it. And I think that the league should be applauded for doing something that might be, I think it gives teams a chance to not get stuck in their own division, and let's see how that works out. I think it gives some teams who in a tough division might not have thought they had a chance, but now they do because they. Their overall record and numbers are being considered. So I like it. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, obviously, when I... Did they just...
Sorry, we got Anaheim and Vancouver going on here. And Vancouver had a power play to start the game. Yet another Anaheim having to take a penalty before the game started. So that game is underway now. We're taking a look at that one as we keep on talking. But, yeah, go ahead. We got time here.
To be honest, I get, when I say that I don't like it, it's not that I hate it, it's not that I'm, like completely disagree with it. It's just, when I was younger, you listen, you watch the playoffs and it was always the divisions, and then they went to the new format and it just was like, okay, well, you're taking 6 teams out of the Central and 2 out of the rest, and it's like, okay, I get that, but it's then at that point it's like, well, that divisional title doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
I get, and I think that's, yeah, you can win your division, but truthfully, I think winning your division is due big in part of, during the regular season. You should win your division in the regular season, not have to win it throughout the playoffs.
Right. Vancouver scored first here, taking a 1-0 lead over Anaheim. We're still waiting for Minnesota and St. Louis to start up. We're trying to get a stream for Pittsburgh and Detroit.
Oh, 5-minute major for Anaheim there. Checking from behind. The Anaheim series is at, I believe it's 3-2 Vancouver.
Right. I'm sorry,
yes,
no, 3-2 Anaheim, I believe, is what I have here. It was 3-1 Anaheim before that Vancouver win just now in Game 5.
Okay. So, yeah, it's 3-2 Anaheim, Jordan. One of the guys in the chat had asked.
Yeah, it's in Anaheim now with a major penalty and a major power play here and a chance to do something with it, down by 1. And so far, just having trouble getting into the zone. Looks like Vancouver is really trying to attack at the blue line. So we'll see if they continue to do that all game.
Let's go.
Listening in on their game. Still trying to find something for Detroit and Pittsburgh. Hopefully we can get a stream for them shortly. Looks like we may have one for Pittsburgh, so let me get that up here.
And it looks like that Vancouver actually has a couple of guys playing their 4th game, and that was due to a family emergency. I don't know the details on it, but the league was kind of flexible with them and gave them permission to go ahead and let a couple of guys play their 4th game, and so that's an interesting wrinkle because they're probably playing their top line in Game 6 again, and now they're maxed out at 4, so they do take it to Game 7. I think that Vancouver would probably find themselves in a little bit of a pickle.
Pittsburgh, Detroit just started up. Pittsburgh had to take a penalty, so Detroit is on the power play. And give me a second here. We'll try and get both of these games up for you to look at.
their situation.
They're D's weak, boys. We gotta. Okay, we can't get caught on these 2-on-1s, man. We can't. Just. Wow, dude. This league's a fucking joke.
Now we're hearing some problems with for some guys who are not happy with how things I guess have worked out for a couple of these games, but that's an interesting call on that one. So you're saying because of a family emergency, somebody was able to play a game that they shouldn't have played? Is that the case?
Yeah. So the general rules. But the general rules on this is that anybody can play 3 games up to game 6, and then the 4 games is reserved for the game 7.
Right.
But before game 7, nobody should be playing 4 games. With this family emergency, and like I said, I don't know the details, but I think there was either a death of a young person in the family or something along those lines, and it was very last second.
Yep.
They went ahead and adjusted the rules in this situation to try to make this series as competitive as possible. Anaheim was able to win Game 5, which is going to be good, so that hopefully this game doesn't impact the series as much as it could have had Vancouver been able to win the entire series in 6.
Yeah, and obviously everybody here, the league-wise, media-wise, we send our condolences out to, anybody, with any family incident that has happened tonight, and our prayers are with you, and we hope for the best.
And you see now we're watching both of these games, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Vancouver, Anaheim. Detroit just scoring now, going ahead 1-0 in their game 6 halfway through the first period. First period about to finish with Vancouver up 1-0 and a brilliant save on a breakaway there, keeping the Ducks off the scoreboard. And Anaheim clears it out, but Vancouver will get a power play to start the second period.
And for understandably, the Anaheim Ducks management aren't very happy with the decision, so we're having some conversations right now trying to smooth this over a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, understandable. And look, obviously we have to take things at face value, that they are actually happening this way, and this is and somebody is dealing with a family crisis. But we've all played hockey, and I'm sure there are a lot of guys who are thinking, well, I wonder if that's true or not. And we're going to assume it is true, and we hope that whoever is dealing with that is, things will be okay for them. But I think that's probably what a lot of guys are at least on the other team are concerned about, is that how do we confirm this? What do you do? Do you? And to me, I feel like you have to take it as is, and you hope that people aren't lying about someone's health because they want to win a video game championship. But we've seen dumber things happen, so we'll take it as face value for what it's worth. But I think we could see where people might feel like it's should I believe it or should I not believe it?
It's one of those things that I think that like you said, you have to take it at face value. If somebody's trying to scheme the league and scheme their opponents to steal a win, it's probably going to get found out sooner or later, and it's probably going to come back to bite them. Whether it's just by their reputation or having that game overturned to a forfeit loss or something along those lines. You've got to take those situations at face value, because we all know life happens, and you just got to accept it.
Right.
Things come up, things happen, and if something's shady, you just know that down the line, sooner or later, it's going to come to light.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just, it's a matter of time, and like we've said, you take it with what it is, and you kind of got to do what you got to do about it at the time. And kind of like you said, obviously, if it is shady, it'll be found out. And it's really as easy as being in a party with somebody and you're just over talking, and and
right.
Somebody hears you and they're like, oh, whoa, hold on, and yeah, we obviously don't hope for that though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. You never wish that on anybody, and it's unfortunate, part of life that things like that do happen from time to time, and definitely between real life and video game playoff hockey, real life absolutely takes is more important for sure.
Watching St. Louis and Minnesota, they got underway. Right now, 15 minutes left to go in the first. You see no score there. Detroit after one, up 1-0, and Vancouver up 2-0. 14:20 left to go in the second period with Vancouver with that lead. So we'll, as soon as the Pittsburgh-Detroit game gets back on here shortly, we will we'll show you all three games that are going on right now at the same time and give you a chance to look at that. We'd give you a quad box, but one series is over, so we can't do that.
Right.
But it'll be fun to at least watch these games together, and I'll give you a chance to look at that. Meanwhile, a little surprised that we're almost halfway through the first and still no score in the St. Louis-Minnesota game. In Minnesota,
I think
on a partial break here, good opportunity, but not able to capitalize.
Yeah, I think Minnesota, they just had to, they maybe, like I said before, maybe they needed a fire lit, and maybe that hype video did something for them.
Detroit taking a 2-0 lead now in their game. As you see now, all three games on your screen.
Yeah, it looks like Minnesota just took a bad penalty. After getting that breakaway, there's probably a little bit of frustration that they weren't able to bury the puck, and we'll see if St. Louis is able to capitalize on this power play, because they want to. Very good scoring chance right there.
Yeah, just looking at the YouTube chat, you guys were talking later about the divisional thing, and obviously Pittsburgh now just getting on the board here. It's 2-1 Detroit. Jordan Wisner and Dick Navis, yeah, both saying they prefer divisions as part of the playoffs, and as part of our discussion earlier, do you like whether or not it should all be division by division or having the wild cards in there? I kind of like the wild cards, the last couple of positions, but I can see where it's probably easier to focus on what you need to do in your division, and it's a lot easier to tell whether or not you're going to make it or not, when things are pretty clear cut. So I would think that's the benefit of knowing it and knowing that it's just your division, but I like the opportunity to give teams who might be playing in a tougher division a chance to maybe get in the playoffs, even though, they may not have the most in their division point-wise, but are doing better than other teams.
Yeah, I definitely understand, the concept of the wild card. Obviously it's a good, you kind of sneak your way in, and, but at the same time, like you said, it's easier to tell what you got to do when it's clear cut. There's a line drawn,
Right.
That if you're not above this line, you're not in, and sometimes that's what some guys need, sometimes they're like, oh, well, we're too far out, we can't do anything. And that's where the wild card comes in. It's like, no, we just need some help, but we could still get in,
Right.
St. Louis had a really good penalty power play for 5 minutes, and then unfortunately took a penalty there, so they're going to be matched up 4-on-4 right now.
Vancouver up now 3-0. You see 3.5 left to go in the second. They're trying hard to force a Game 7 tonight.
Yeah,
you got to
go ahead.
Good. I was just going to say, you got to give it to them for fighting back and playing through the adversity. There are two guys in this game for them that are playing their fourth game, and so that'll be interesting. Like I said, interesting how Game 7 shapes up for them and who they're able to put on the ice.
Yeah, you know, and even, you know, the slightest adversity, you know, can kind of help you. It can help you in one way, but it can also, you know, drag you down. You know, it helps you in, all right, look, we're the underdogs here. We need to prove something, you know, but at the same time, you know, we're the underdogs, you know, and it's, you know, it can definitely be a challenge.
You see Detroit trying to push a little bit harder, getting an opportunity here late in the second. Vancouver looks like they're about to take a lead through the second, and St. Louis gets on the board. 1-0 lead, a power play goal gets them the early lead here late in the first period. So a couple of games about ready to finish up their first period. Second period almost done. We're going to keep an eye on Detroit, Pittsburgh. At least once it gets halfway through the third, we'll really focus on that one if it's still close. 17 shots on goal to 3. Vancouver over Anaheim in this game. That tells you right there the difference and why Vancouver is leading it. Hate to be a goaltender that's seen 17 shots on goal already in that game.
Yeah, you know, I mean, general rule of thumb that I've told many teams, many of guys, you know, if you can put up 30 shots on net a game, there's a good possibility you're going to win that game. You know, and I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's as true as you can become, as it, you know, it's as true as the statement is, really. I mean, because you see a lot of games where it's, you know, it's a 1-goal game, and because you've only had 10 shots on net. Whereas, you know, you get a lot of these games that, you know, are either blowouts one way or tight because you've got good goaltending or bad goaltending, and you put up, you know, 20, 25 shots on net.
St. Louis, late goal going up 2-0 now after the first period. And you see Detroit, their third tally late in the second here, have gone up 3-1. We'll kick you over to Vancouver and Anaheim. You see now Anaheim finally getting on the board here in the third as the second period is dwindling down for Detroit. Once that's done, we'll get you over to Anaheim, Vancouver for most of the third period, and then keep an eye on the other games for you as well.
And it looks like this, the communication is something that we're going to have to work on. I do kind of feel bad that Anaheim didn't get notified that rule change was going to be in effect and allowed for this game. So they were kind of blindsided by that. And so you wonder what kind of impact that has emotionally on the team and then the owner, knowing that, hey, we should have a forfeit win. Oh, wait, no, the rules changed. You know, that's got to play into their emotions in this Game 6. Hopefully it doesn't bleed over into Game 7 if it goes to that.
Well, despite talking, you know, as well as talking about how these series went, I got to believe that this weekend's Sunday night show is going to definitely talk about that topic, I would think. Right, Fort?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, obviously we like to cover most of, you know, what's going on. We'll cover a lot of the breakdown on how round two has developed. Obviously, you know, we'll talk to some owners, some players of teams, you know, advancing to the third round.
Sure.
And, you know, I mean, we're going to kind of dive deep into kind of a topic, you know, of St. Louis that has kind of been, it's kind of been overlooked. I wouldn't say overlooked. Everybody brings it up, but we're kind of going to dive into it and see kind of really what was going on.
Pittsburgh just putting a goal in the net, down now by 1 here early in the third period, so they're going to push hard to get this one even. Vancouver still leading Anaheim. Almost halfway through the third there. St. Louis and Minnesota. St. Louis up 3-0 in that. So I think we may give you 2 games and take out that St. Louis, Minnesota game and give you a 2-box of Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Anaheim, Vancouver, as these games are, relatively close on time. And so we'll keep, you see Vancouver, Anaheim maybe a few minutes ahead, but let's look at both of these games for a bit. When we get down to the last few minutes of that Vancouver-Anaheim game, we'll switch to that. And I'll keep you updated on Minnesota, St. Louis. St. Louis now 4-0 in that one. 12.5 left to go in the second.
Pucker, I just got a good recommendation from somebody here watching on the YouTube stream. Dick Navis, 165 Dick Navis says, anytime things like this happen in the Vancouver-Anaheim series, there should be a representative to join the party chat and explain the issues between team managers. Maybe have like a common ground, which I understand, can't always happen. Because you'll get one team that's irate about it and one that's like, well, what are we supposed to do? And so I can understand why, but yeah, I mean, having a representative would maybe that would help.
Sure, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do in this situation. I have no dog in this fight from my standpoint, and I'm one that really pushes the rules. If the rules say something, then you got to play within the rules and figure it out. With that being said, a decision was made, and I've got to support the decision that was made as well. And so with that decision, I think it's one of those situations where as long as it would apply to everybody across the board in this league, then it's a reasonable exception to the rule. Where I get frustrated is when it's good this week, not good next week, good this week, not good that next week. So they just have to find a consistency, and as long as there's a consistent theme, then I think it's fair. But this kind of opens up some muddy water, if you will, for these playoff games when if a family emergency will allow you to be able to get a kind of a strategic advantage in Game 6. It's hopefully this isn't a trend, isn't something that people start using as a strategy. And like we said originally, you got to take it as a base value. This is probably a legitimate thing. And, and if it's not, then like I said, it'll come to light. And just play on with the situation that you're given. This team that's playing 4 guys in game, a guy that's playing 4 games in Game 6, they're just not going to be able to play a Game 7. And obviously, if you picked them to play Game 6, and they're probably your better guys to play Game 7. So it's going to hurt you in the long run. Anywho, I kind of anticipate that Anaheim will find a way to either tie this game up in the last minute of their game, or they'll find a way to win it in Game 7. So hopefully, again, this isn't something that really changes the outcome of this series ultimately, and we can all move on.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly have some time to talk about it, I'm sure, afterwards. Meanwhile, as you see, 30 seconds left to go in the third, and Anaheim trying to get that tying goal right now. But Vancouver swarming them pretty well defensively and able to keep it in, but finally Vancouver getting it out. Now a 2-on-1 the other way for the Canucks. And just killing the puck and good defensive play, but Anaheim with one more chance, not able to take advantage of it. 5 seconds left to go, and it looks like Vancouver will move on and make this a 7-game series, winning that one 3-2. And we'll get you over to the Detroit-Pittsburgh for the end of that. Meanwhile, Detroit up 5-2 in this one.
We have a scrap. Well, we have a line brawl, it looks like.
There you go.
I think Pittsburgh thinks they know it's over, right?
Yeah, they know it's over.
They know it's over, right?
They can't beat you on the scoreboard, they'll beat you on the ice. I mean, with their face.
Trying to take some sort of win, right? I guess.
Yeah. Really, as we laugh about it, what else well, really, I mean, what else are we supposed to do? Really, I mean,
sure.
You know, it's a video game. You know, everybody's here to have fun. You know, you throw hands, you walk away at the end of the night. You think, okay, well, we made it to the second round. Your management kind of now has an early off season, and you know, can get a jump on scouting guys for next season.
Second intermission's over. I'm sorry. Go ahead. St. Louis leading 5-0 now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, when you do end up exiting the playoffs a little bit early like this, it does kind of give you a little advantage getting ready for the bidding and things of that nature. If you take advantage of the time to get some good scouting games in, watch some more of these playoff teams play against each other, kind of get an idea of you know, who you want to pick up for next season, and try out it again. That's what the playoff hockey is, what it's all about. You want to win that cup. Without, you know, there's 32 teams that are playing for the cup, and only one of us is going to get it. So 31 teams essentially failed. So you always have to go back to the drawing board and find a way to do better the following season.
You see Detroit about to win this one 5-2 and win the series 4-2.
So Detroit will go on to play Montreal. You know, and truthfully, I mean, that's we've seen a very strong, hard-fought Montreal team. We've seen a very strong Detroit team. I mean, I think these are the two best teams to come out. You know, and I think that series will be a fun series to watch and commentate over.
So, how many game sevens is it just? How many game sevens are we looking at right now?
Right now, yeah, just one, because
just one, yeah.
St. Louis is up 5-0 on Minnesota.
That game's pretty much over. Unless Minnesota has proved us wrong in the past. Maybe they've got some more in the tank, and maybe they can find a way to get about 7 goals here, because they're going to need to.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it. Minnesota's starting to break down defensively. I kind of feel like that we're about to see St. Louis really start even making this lead even greater.
Meanwhile, we're watching the rest of the St. Louis-Minnesota game. Anaheim and Vancouver will get a Game 7 going. And as soon as that's up and running, we'll show it to you. And that'll be our last match for tonight, more than likely. Unless Minnesota can score 5 right now in the last 11 and a half, well, make that 6 now in the last 11 and a half minutes. They're going to be out of this one.
Yeah, and I hope Cotton can kind of get out of his own way. He's super frustrated with the situation, and so hopefully he can block it and move on to Game 7 and get his head straight for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's tough. I mean, it's incredibly tough to have something like that happen, and then say, well, we got to get past it, guys. Somehow we got to make this work. And just move on, and it's not easy when you think you've been slighted. So, but you know, the league had to make a call. They made it quickly. I give them credit for that. And you know, the league's showing some compassion, and I think you have to err on that side. So I don't blame them for that.
To Bernie. Laid on to Ma. Pushing it backwards in his own end. Pitching it to Hickey.
The Blues have played so well that they've turned this game into an absolute laugher. It's not very often that you can relax and just roll your lines without worrying about the outcome.
The hat trick.
Another St. Louis goal.
They don't expect that. Goal, look out here. What do you think? He's asking and looking for a dance partner. They've won the faceoff.
His third of the game, scored on the power play.
Pitching this one to Black Dynamite.
Assisted by number 55.
It's dumped in.
Happen. I don't think it is. Hopefully that other teams don't take advantage of this situation and try to make it a strategy is what I'm more concerned about than anything. It's not that I think this is not true. I think it's more that I just don't want this to become a trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped out of the party, so we kind of lost a chunk of what you had to say. But yeah, I think we get the gist of the idea of what it was about, and the fact that league has to make this kind of call. But I wonder if this was. And I gotta tell you, it's not something I thought about. I wonder if they have a contingency for something like, okay, somebody says they've got a family emergency. How do we handle this? This is something that they've thought about before. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. And if it isn't, like I said, I hadn't thought of it. So, and I've been playing in leagues since for the last 3 years plus. So, how you deal with something like this, it's a tough call, but the league made it quickly, and then not a bad idea, to get this figured out and get it figured out quickly.
Yeah, and right now, and understandably so, Anaheim's owner is super upset, and they're talking about not playing Game 7, and that's the last thing I want to see. I'd rather these two teams, find a way to get these guys on the ice, and that's what this is all about. It's playoff hockey. Figure out a way to get your guys on the ice and just go from there.
Right.
But I also, from his standpoint, too, completely understand this frustration.
Sure.
No, I don't think this is necessarily something that you perhaps planned for, and maybe we should have, but you can't always come up with every different scenario and necessarily have a plan for everything. But I think it's a pretty good idea to take this as a learning opportunity to say, okay, this happened this season. What are we going to do about it in the future so that we have a clear-cut guideline that everybody understands that this is what's going to happen moving forward. And so that, like I said, for me, fairness is also about being consistent. As long as we're being consistent from week to week, from season to season, then it is what it is.
Right. Well, like again, when something new comes up like this, the situation is what do you call it? If they had said, look, you're in the playoffs, and part of your job as management is to have some guys as backups ready to go. And I'm assuming we have some free agents that you guys can use. Is that correct?
So I'm still kind of getting familiar with this league. I know that we have the Prospect League, and there's ECUs come from the Prospect League. There's not truly a TC like you might see in other leagues, except for maybe like one big group TC, which is the prospects. I'm not sure what was the deciding factor on, letting somebody play 4 games versus, making them go ahead and find an ECU. But needless to say, the decision was made, and I have to stand behind it.
Right.
From my understanding, and I could be wrong, I know that, having the prospects, I believe you can claim them for the playoffs. But then again, it is kind of one of those touchy. It wasn't clear cut and decided, and I understand. It happens. It's the first year. Obviously, that's not an excuse for for everything. Things need to be clear cut and done before you kind of make a decision. And I think truthfully, I think the league has done what they can, and I think the league has taken this incident and has kind of dealt with it the best way that they can.
Sure.
You know, I mean, what else do you do? I mean, it's like you said, T-Sibs, you know, when how did you say? Man, now it, like, right as I bring it up, it like goes right over my head. You know, it's how do I say it? Well, okay, yeah, like you said, you know, as management, you should have, you know, at least two guys, you know, even if they aren't your best forwards, they're your third line guys, you know.
Right.
You should have, you know, one of those guys, two of those guys ready, you know, for an incident like this, and, you know, be ready for, you know, something. You know, I mean, that was, you know, that was my biggest thing in the season, this past season was, you know, I always had guys that I knew I would play 5 games a week, you know, and you always have those guys that are always available. They may not be, you know, your top line 100-point getters, but they can fill in, you know, where needed. You know, I had a D-man that at one point, you know, he couldn't make it, and I didn't have enough defense, and I had my goalie, you know, he had an extra game, and I was like, hey, I need you, you know, you just won't get the extra game on Friday. He's like, that's fine. You know, you got to have guys that are willing to not only work with you, but also kind of, you know, be flexible, you know, and understanding.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the case, and I think I understand how tough it is to manage. You know, I've done it. It's there's no fun in it, and you know, it's a lot of headache and a lot of stress. But I think you have to make the effort to say we need to make sure we've got backups if possible, whatever that takes. And you know, I want to believe that effort was made, and they just couldn't find anybody. Certainly, I you know, give them credit for that's probably the case. But it's another reason why a lot of guys who may not be rostered but can ECU should be available. You know, should make themselves available. I think when guys think they're not going to get in, they are not going to get into a game. They just disappear and forget it. You know, and I think that's the bad way to react. Quite honestly, I think it's a little bit childish, but you know, I've come to expect it from a lot of leagues. A lot of guys are like, well, if you can't tell me I'm not going to play right now, I'm going to go play club for the next 2 hours and forget about you guys completely. And if you're going to be part of a league, if you're going to sign up, you got to be available. I mean, it's the bottom line. I don't care if you're not rostered. I don't care if it's a iffy thing. Somebody might need you. Be available and play when you're asked.
How did that Anaheim-Vancouver series go? Where are we at?
We are at 3-3, and we're waiting Game 7, so hopefully we'll be getting that.
Let's go.
Meanwhile, you've bought a friend along, haven't you?
I have. Nasty Uncle. He won the Norris Trophy this season. Had a great series. He's been on my line. And
does he make you say that when you introduce him? Does he have to? Do you have to say Norris Trophy winner? Nasty Uncle Dad? Or?
No, I mean, but if someone has accolades, I'm going to make it known to the league.
No, he deserves it. I just didn't know if you were contractually obligated to say that when you bring it in.
Right.
Of course not. I'm just all about my boys and my teammates.
Hey, Nasty, good. Thanks for coming on, and congrats on a win. And you know what was a bit of a tough series. It wasn't a cakewalk at all.
Hey, I got a quick question.
You know, just saying real fast, I'm really glad you have me on your show. Just saying, very big fan.
Thank you.
And you know, just glad to be talking with you guys.
Pucker, you had something there?
Yeah, a quick question on this. Anaheim, Vancouver, are they not tied at 3-3?
I believe they are. I thought they were.
Yeah, because the Ducks owner is saying that they aren't in Game 7. They lost in 6 because of this ruling. I think they're at 3-3. Am I mistaken? Can we double check that?
I mean, I thought that too, but
I want to make sure.
I don't know if the site does the site have anything up there as an update, or I have no idea. I've been keeping my own stats, so I have no idea.
We know for sure. We know for sure Anaheim won Game 5, right? And then Vancouver ended up winning Game 6, correct?
The last I had, and I'll get that to you shortly here.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure going into tonight, these were the only two teams that were tied 2-2. So if both teams won one game tonight, then it's a Game 7.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, because last night I believe that it was tied 2-2. Because I think all the games had went back and forth at that point.
Yeah, I believe we're there. So I don't know what's. Let's see. I'll bring that up in a second. We had Vancouver winning both games tonight so far, and we had the series at 3-1 Anaheim before tonight. Now, if we're wrong, someone needs to tell us that. But as far as I understood it, that was the case, and that's where we are. So if somebody in the league wants to tell me different, that's fine. But I'll show you what I've got. I have it up there now on the screen for folks. We had an overtime win for Vancouver in Game 1. Game 2 taken by the Ducks 3-1. And then 3 and 4, Game 3 by Vancouver 4-1. And then Game 4, 7-0 win for Anaheim. So we had it 2-2 after last night. And then, of course, you know what? Duh. I'm not even looking at it properly, am I? So did we have a 2-2? And then we had Vancouver win both games. So you're right. You're absolutely right. Vancouver won it with that game. I miscounted. My bad. Unfortunately, didn't go to good schooling. So that's my fault. So Vancouver has won this one. So they move on to take on St. Louis. Wow. So sorry about that, folks.
Hey, Sibs, how about we break down the St. Louis-Minnesota series with Nasty while we have him in here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, Minnesota played tough in this entire series, and they did not, they didn't go quietly. They played a game where they, were just waiting you guys out, it seemed, most of the time, and hoping that, that you guys were going to make mistakes and capitalize from it. Is that the way you guys saw their style of play, or did you see it differently than that?
Sibs, to come in, I'd just like to say, we thought Mini, was going to be a little less, how can I say, a little less offensive, and we kind of underestimated them coming into this series. After the first game, we won 11-1. We thought it was going to be over for them, sweeping them.
Right.
And surprisingly, Minnesota just came back knocking, and they didn't want to go undefeated in this series. And for a big surprise, they actually pulled off a win, and they kept us on our toes, and was a pretty good series.
How do you feel like your guys played in this series? Do you think there are some things you need to work on before you match up with Vancouver in the next round?
Well, I think some things we need to highlight is the chemistry between every player. I mean, at the beginning of the season, before the contracts were signed, I had my D partner, Josh the Boss, and all we were asking is to be put on a team together, because chemistry is part of, it's a big factor for a team.
Sure.
So when we went to St. Louis, we talked with him, and I think Aubrey found it was a good idea that we knew each other, from the get-go, and that we weren't new D partners, because D is a big plays a big part, for the game.
Sure.
So right off the bat, we had a lot of chemistries. I mean, and everybody knows each other, and it was there's a white knucklers and RV are insane, and right after game 2, when we found that we won both games, we knew that Minnesota didn't put out their first line. So we saved it for Game 6 to assure a big win,
I have by far the most. It has nothing to do with hockey. What in the fuck made you decide to make your name Nasty Uncle Dad? I've wondered that all season. I have literally every podcast that your name comes up, I literally say the same thing. I'm like, I don't know who makes these guys as PSNs. So can we get a little backstory on the nasty Uncle Dad? Like,
we just started playing, with friends, playing some NHL, and nasty Uncle Dad, nasty sister wife, nasty pastor, uncle, daddy, whatever you want to call it. And and I had my first name and my last name as my gamer tag at the beginning of the season, and it put me in a bit of in that kind of situation where when I could change it, I actually did, and I was glad the PS4 came up with the option to change it. But it's just sometimes I like it. On Discord, I like to chirp. I like to get in character. I don't really, to chirp to take it personally or whatever. I just love the playoff ambience. Just getting in people's head, just making them, making them think that nasty Uncle Dad is a real character.
Doesn't hurt.
Well, I can. Yeah, I was gonna say I can tell you after seeing what goes on in the Discord, obviously you definitely you make that character come alive, and that's something that a lot of these guys they have unique usernames, and that's something that that not a lot of people are able to do, because truthfully I would have never thought that you are as nice of a person as you are, and that you're as genuine as you are, because I see a lot of the chirping. I see, and I just kind of I hide behind it. I don't really say anything. But yeah, you have definitely, in your name, obviously, it catches the eye, and that's definitely cool, dude. Going forward in the playoffs, what are your expectations of not only yourself but your team?
Well, I'm expecting of course, to win the cup. I mean, I think it's natural to have those expectations from my team, and a big factor for my Norris trophy was actually it's the whole team. You don't get assists and you don't get points by just playing by yourself.
Sure.
So if you can have confidence in all your players, and that your forwards have confidence in your defense, I think that's what makes a great team, But I'm really looking forward for the cup. It's going to be a very great matchup.
I mean, a lot of questions arise. What kind of made you, either, because obviously you're a D man, if I'm correct. What kind of made you, instead of being, a forward or a goalie, what brought your attention to being a D man?
Well, actually, it started from in LG on NHL 17. I had a friend who told me that there was a lot of defense missing for the season, and I knew I was going to have a quick spot and not, of course, stay TC. And I guess I got a habit of playing, basically playing defense with people. So I found it was such an important role, and playing forward, you don't always get the defense that you're hoping for. So I'm just putting the forward role aside, and I want to be that D partner that everybody wants.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, defense is a big key there. Not to toot, a horn or anything, but obviously defense wins championships, and is that kind of your guys' motto going forward? Let the forwards do their job, and our defense will win us the championship.
I'm sorry, I think
did we lose you there?
Yeah, I think you got cut off there, buddy.
I think I
search your question over.
Yeah, I think he's out of the party right now, so sorry. He'll join back in shortly, I'm sure. What can you say quickly about some quick thoughts about your next opponent in the next round? And have you guys talked about any of the other teams that you might have been playing in the semifinals, or is it too early to to have any opinions about what you're going to wind up seeing in the semis next week.
Well, first off, Detroit, a big underdog in this series that is showing up and really, making a step here, maybe going to the finals. And between Anaheim or Vancouver, I mean, as we saw with this series against Minnesota, anything can happen. And, we don't want to take nothing lightly. And I think we learned from this series that we can't just expect to win, 4 games in a row when you're in round 2 or round 3 or going to the finals. You can't be expecting to win every night. You have to expect that your opponents are going to be coming back at you. So, we're just trying to get prepared. And, I think the game's 50% mentality and 50% in the game. So, if we can get like that mental part, like on par, let's say, I think we got half the game, half the series won. That's what, yeah, just about.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, there he is.
There you go.
Got 4 back. Sorry about that.
All right, well. Yeah.
You were in the middle of a question, and if you can remember what your question was, please go ahead and ask it.
Okay, as I was saying before, with the common saying of defense wins championships, is that kind of your guys' outlook right now? Is that let the defense or let the forwards do their thing, and our defense will lock us down and really win it for us? Or do you guys just kind of have a different motto that you guys are going by besides Free Aubrey? Because I'm going to hear all of that on the Sunday night show.
Yeah, we know it's going to blow up, right? No, I think we're just trying to keep it simple hockey. Really try to shut them down in the neutral zone. Nothing too fancy. I mean, for sure, it's a big help if offense actually plays with us, actually wants to get us in the game going with them, and I think they're doing an extraordinary job. And I have one of the best D partners. Joss comes over here, has a couple of drinks, and frankly, we don't talk about NHL. We talk about this league. That's all we talk about. And it's kind of weird, saying that this league has taken a big part. Not only in the game, but in the life. You like to talk about your players, who you're going up against, how it's going to turn out, and always that little probability that EA is going to turn over on you, even though you're 100%, even though you can have the best stacked team, So we just try to think about everything, try to keep active in the Discord. But talking about defense, I think we have everything settled down. Just try to keep it smart and simple, nothing too fancy.
I will add. As playing center on his line, those two guys on the back end are doing a phenomenal job moving the puck up quick. And when I'm in the offensive zone, I love to use my points. Love using the 4 other guys. So they're doing a great job, and it's really paying off. I don't think we've lost in the playoffs so far yet. So
no loss. But we have to say, having white knucklers as a center, it really eases the D job. I mean, you don't really have to play that much D when you got a guy just cutting passes, just being there for you if you're out of position, just always having your back. So I'm guessing, the center plays a really big position here.
I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in there too, just from my experience with White. He absolutely, I didn't realize how easy a defense you can have when you have a center that knows what they're doing. And both him and Morena, both are excellent centers, and it's a blessing to have either one of them in front of you on your line for sure. Nasty, one thing I like to always ask players, playoff hockey just brings out the best in everybody, but also it kind of increases those nerves. Now, you guys pretty handedly, I can't talk. You guys kicked their butts most of the way.
Okay.
So with that being said, did you ever have any nerves that kind of came into play in this series? And if so, how did you handle them and move past them?
Are you kidding? I've been sweating since game 1, ever since I've been playing, and I've got sweaty hands. I'm just sweating here. I got my heart racing. I know it's the playoffs, and it's kind of weird how a video game, you know, can make you feel like that. But yeah, I'm 100% in there. I get the shakes a little. You know, I got to calm myself down. I mean, playoffs is a big deal. I mean, not only have you been playing, you know, the regular season games and, you know, forming chemistry, you know, if you're going to lose that game, you're losing with the team. So you're not just involving yourself. And I think that's a big stress, you know, when you're going up and, you know, you're not at 100% or, you know, you're not playing the game you want to be playing. I think that's the biggest factor in there. But yeah, I've lost a couple of pounds, you know, probably playing this. The playoffs are, you know, what you're looking for and actually what you want to achieve. So, of course, it's a big stress.
Do you feel like the experience that you've had in these first two series are going to serve you well going into the Stanley Cup Finals and the Conference Finals? If you guys Stanley Cup Finals, if you make it that far, and then this third round as well.
Oh yeah, we've been definitely. You know, we've been rushing. You know, ever since Aubrey left. We've been having trouble, but we don't have any trouble, you know, because we have depth in our line. But it's going to be a huge advantage, you know, to have him back, and you know, just get the crew all together again, and you know, keep up those big lines. But definitely, since those two first series, it's been a well-taught lesson that we can't take stuff lightly like this. You know, we really have to take it seriously, and no game is won until the clock reaches 0.
Yeah, I think this might actually prove to be a blessing for you guys to kind of get punched in the mouth a couple of times this early in the playoffs. And when you still have a chance to regroup and win the series, I think it's going to serve you guys well going into the round 3 and the Stanley Cup as well. I'm predicting you guys to win the whole thing, so don't let me down.
Well, thanks a lot, but mostly I'd like, you know, big hands of applause to Minnesota, you know, for sticking in there.
Sure.
And right off the bat for the stream at the beginning, I heard something about Minnie not showing up for game 2, and just be able to get 6 players on the ice to play your playoff game is, you know, it's a very big deal. You know, you want to play your games, and you know, hats off to them getting so far with us. I know we have a lot of talent, but they could have had us if things would have went wrong.
Yeah, we definitely made it a fight, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks again, Nasty, for joining us tonight, and congrats and best of luck. We'll talk to you probably before next round.
All right, hey, thanks a lot, boys. Thanks for having me, and see you boys later. Have a good night.
All right, that's Nasty Uncle Dad joining us. We're trying to get Doc Marshmallow in here to talk to him about
some things here.
Yeah, about the decision. There's certainly a lot being talked about in the Discord about that decision. He was somewhat involved, but I don't think he made the final decision on this. And hopefully we can get him in here.
I should probably share the stream again so that way everybody can come and watch and listen.
Yeah, I would throw that out there again because I think it's going to be very interesting to hear what may or may not have happened.
You guys, is Doc's PSN is Doc_Q_X_C as his second one? I know his first one's Doc Marshmallow.
Yeah, that one you just said, and I suggested him, so I'm hoping maybe you're still. You might still have it. I'll send it again here. I think I
went ahead and I sent it to both of them. It looks like he just logged on to Doc Marshmallow, so he should be jumping in here momentarily, I think.
Trying to make it hard on us, isn't he? Yeah. So he's going to try and come on, and here he is. Here's Doc Marshmallow, and as a relatively newly appointed member of the management of the WEHL. Thanks for coming on, Doc. We appreciate it. We know that there was a lot going on with that Vancouver and Anaheim game. And, you know, obviously we've seen some things spoken about. But why don't you give us what detail that you know about what happened before that game number 6 tonight?
All right, thanks for having me. I can't say a whole lot because, my phone has been dead and I just got it started charging, so I'm trying to catch up myself. All I know is, and I'm not going to badmouth Amanda because she made a decision
Sure.
But it's controversial for sure. And I don't 100% agree with it, but I don't know the entire circumstances either. So
sure.
I'm trying to catch up. Like I said, and my phone is just starting to catch up. Apparently, there were some there were some deaths in the family for some players or something.
Right.
Yeah, Doc, we were talking about it earlier. When things like this come up last minute and they're not, there's not a set plan in place for it, it makes it hard because you're kind of scrambling to put a plan together. I definitely feel like from my standpoint that I'm going to use this as a learning curve going into next season and thinking about some of these scenarios that we probably need to have an idea of what we want to do in those situations so that we have a plan if this happens again moving forward. And what's your take on that?
Well, absolutely. There's no precedence for this so far. This will set a precedence. But it's a hard thing to make that decision, Like, do you want to be heartless and go, here's the rules, we don't care, even though it's a video game? Or, there's also the chance that these guys aren't telling the truth. Who knows? But does the league want to look heartless? Probably not. But at the same time, we also want to preserve fairness. So I don't know, did they take a penalty? Was there an agreement between the two teams? I don't know. I would say moving forward next season in a situation like this, absolutely there will have to be some kind of agreement or discussion with the two owners prior to making this decision. However, I understand where she's coming from. She's trying to be compassionate.
Yeah,
in a rough situation.
Doc, just being able to kind of mull this over and let it marinate for the last couple hours, and then thinking about it and trying to figure out, what the best thing to do in this situation is. What's your take on whether or not we probably should have let Anaheim line match if they're allowed to play, two guys 4 games? Should we have let Anaheim also have 2 guys be able to play 4 games and line match?
Like I said, I think it should have been a discussion between the two teams, and an agreement like that could have made it more fair,
Yeah.
That's something that should have been discussed. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it wasn't. I just, like I said, my phone was like at 1% when I got asked what's going on with this, and then it died.
So how badly did Anaheim react? I mean, we obviously saw some guys in the Discord, but what was their reaction to all this?
Well, it was understandably they were upset because, it seems like the other team is getting some kind of unfair advantage, which they may be getting, and they had I don't know if they had prior knowledge of it or not. I don't know, and to lose a game to something like that it's going to absolutely upset you guys. I was telling them to chill in the chat because I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Right.
And I didn't really want a whole spiel to spill out before I could even look into it. But again, Amanda's the commissioner. We got to respect her decision. She's trying to be compassionate. And all we can do is learn from this and move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe we could discuss. I don't know what the admins are going to do. I'm still letting my phone charge, but perhaps there would be a discussion on some kind of something for Anaheim, because in my mind it felt unfair. But
is there? I mean, the decision's made. Do you think that there's a chance that this game gets replayed?
There's lots of possibilities, so I'm not going to rule anything out. But like I said, I'm going to leave that up to Keith, Scott, and Amanda right now.
Sure. That's a tough decision. It's an incredibly tough decision to make, and for the integrity of what happened, you want to try and follow the rules, but you want to try and have some sympathy. Yeah, I don't know. We've had time to think about it. So, one of the things that I think we might have discussed is, maybe you hold off on Game 6 and Game 7 until you could, we could figure out who's going to play what and not move ahead. Of course, like I said, Keith and Scott and Amanda might think, well, let's rethink this and try and do something different. I think it'll be interesting to see what their response is going to be in the end to this, because I can see both sides, but you have rules in place and you have a situation set up that says have ECUs ready to go. And Doc, I mean, if I'm Anaheim, I'm pissed that if you can't find an ECU, to me, I don't know if the reason makes a difference. I feel bad if that's happened, but it is what it is, and the reason, nothing is in the rules about a reason why somebody can't show up. It's can you or can't you show up?
Right. And I completely understand where you're coming from, and like I said, this is kind of setting a precedent, or it's bringing up a situation where we're going to have great debate to figure out what to do in a situation like this moving on next season. It was kind of just a judgment call on her part, I believe.
Sure. And believe me, I don't fault her for that, because, again, while it was going on, we're like, I'm not sure what I would do. We've never come across this in the league. We've seen guys not show up, but never for something like this. And like I said, I've been playing LG since the beginning of 2016. That's when I started playing organized, online hockey. I've never seen this happen. So how do you handle it? Whatever decision you make, someone's going to be pissed unless you decide not to play the games and then try and figure it out later. And again, you make the call that you think that needs to be made, and got to live with it.
Yep. And many leagues have made bad calls in the past and moved on. Moving on, they fixed it later on. In the after a big a committee discussion or something. I mean, hell, I think the NHL actually literally just apologized to a team for a call that was made on the ice, right? That affected an entire series.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. So mistakes are going to happen no matter how established a league is. Or calls that are controversial are going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast, and I can guarantee I see all these discussions. Nobody's trying to none of the admins are trying to favor any of the teams.
Sure.
It's just she was given a weird situation and she just made a judgment call, and
right.
I respect her just making a decision.
Sure.
A lot of people freeze up and just don't answer, so.
Well, I'll tell you what, tough one. It's I don't know how you don't go run screaming from the job when something like this happens, but hopefully this won't dissuade you from continuing to do it next season, because good to have good people like you around. But hey, thanks for coming on, at least trying to talk about this, and we hope that we can, hopefully when the guys do the show this weekend, there might be some more information. If we have to come back on and do a game, we'll do a game. But we thank you for helping us out tonight with this.
Oh, no problem. I hope I was able to answer.
Well, you can be a politician. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you weren't too blunt about it. You flat out just said what everybody knew, and. You didn't really give us too much information, which is a good thing, to be honest, because then we'd have guys in the Discord losing their mind, as if we don't already.
Yeah,
so. That happens every day. It's fun.
Right.
I do look forward to next season. Have I announced my deputy commissioner yet?
No,
I don't think so. If you got an announcement, please go ahead.
Yeah. If you have an announcement, go ahead, man.
Absolutely.
The floor is yours.
I am very excited about this because it's somebody I respect very much. He's got lots of great ideas. And I've always bounced ideas off of him. Even when I was helping run the FBHL, he was probably he had the most insight in leagues I've seen in a long time. A few of you know him, Deuce in the Dirt.
Yep.
All right, my boy.
Very well. Very good addition. I like Deuce a lot. He actually was talking to me about this league, and that's how I got involved in media with this league without even playing. So, I have a ton of respect for him.
Oh, he's been very helpful to me coming into leagues and kind of guiding me through them. So I really would like to see how he blossoms and how he actually runs a lot of the day-to-day operations.
Right.
So I think it's a good pick.
All right, sir. Well, we'll talk to you guys soon. I know we're bouncing around the idea of doing an off-season show with you and Deuce, and maybe we get Scott and Keith and Amanda on and talk about the league and what we're going to do for season 2 and give people a preview. So hopefully we'll be talking to you down the road soon.
Absolutely. I'll come on anytime you guys invite me.
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, Doc Marshmallow, for joining us and trying to talk us through a tough situation tonight. And I really don't know. Like I said, when it was going on, I'm not sure how I'd handle it. I don't know if we talked a lot about options, but what would you have done? Thinking about it now, obviously we've had time. What would you have done here if this call was yours to make?
I mean, truthfully, I don't. To be honest, really, I don't even know. Really, I mean, I think Amanda made the best decision that she could have at the time. Obviously, you're approached with a very, very difficult situation, and it's not easy to be the bad guy. And I give props to every one of the commissioners, anybody on the admins team, anybody that helps run the league. I really do. I appreciate it. If it wasn't for the guys that write the rule book and make the decisions, we wouldn't have had this show to be able to put on for the guys and gals in the league. And it's just. It is what it is. It's said. It's done. It'll go down as an eventful very first season playoffs. And if something were to come out of it, then something comes out of it. If not, then let it be. But I think what was said and what was done was possibly the best thing that could have been said and done. And obviously I support their decisions and whatever they have to say about the league and whatever decisions they make to the league.
Pucker, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, like you said, we've had a lot more time to kind of mull over this and think about the impact of it on both teams. I think that something that I would like to see come from this is a couple of different things. I think you mentioned this earlier in one of our shows that having games 5, 6, and 7 all bunched together, all real tight, makes it real tough when these types of situations come up last minute and you have to make these on the spot decisions. So maybe games were just a little bit more spread out. We would have had more time to kind of debate over the best situation to do, the best way to handle the situation. So that's one thing I'd like us to take a look at. The other thing too is I think we've got to look at it. If we're going to do something for one side of the ice, we got to do the same thing for the other side of the ice. So at the very least, if this situation comes up again, I'd like us to reach out to both sides and let them know clearly what's going on. And maybe that was my fault. Maybe I should have reached out to Anaheim, and I do apologize if that was the expectation for me to reach out to them. Definitely hate for this to happen the way it did. But what I would like to see in the future is that both teams get reached out to, a fair and equitable plan be put out for both teams. So if one team's getting to play 2 guys 4 games, or the other team wants to do the same, that they should be allowed to.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's put this to bed for now, and anything changes, we'll. Like I said, if anything changes and any of these games get replayed, we'll jump on and try and cover them if we can. But my guess is this will probably stay as it is. So let's spend a few minutes, maybe not a ton of time, but let's spend a few minutes on the upcoming conference finals. St. Louis, Vancouver, again in the conference finals in the Western Conference. and we saw what St. Louis is capable of doing. Minnesota had to fight really hard to get 2 games, and St. Louis seems to be firing on all cylinders. Vancouver had a tougher time against Anaheim, and however this ended, they still were able to take this series. 2 teams that certainly have great offenses, and might be a matter of goaltending and defense. What's already, we'll talk to Knucklers about the other series, but I'm curious to hear what Ford has to say, what his early prediction is on this, just because it's like I said, I think we have 2 very good teams that have a lot of offense, and it'll be really interesting to see if I'm wrong about the high scoring in this one, because I thought it was going to be more high scoring. Vancouver and Anaheim didn't turn out that way. Is this different against St. Louis? Do we expect to see more goals? Do we expect to see the Blues put up the same kind of numbers they did against Minnesota?
I'll jump in here and I'll say no. I think the defense for St. Louis is just something that you don't know how you're going to react until you see it. If they're able to put up some offense, then they may have a chance in this series. But I think that St. Louis defense is really what's going to set them apart. They have a high-powered offense and a strong defense to back them up. So, I think it could. I think that they'll find it a lot harder to score against St. Louis's defense.
What's your feeling on this series, Fort? What's your quick observation on it? St. Louis and Vancouver.
I mean, really. I think Vancouver's going to have to play some shutdown defense. They're going to have to really stay tight, kind of know what's going on, kind of figure out, their style of play. You got all weekend to kind of figure it out, and I hope that these guys, I hope to see 6-7 game series in these semifinal rounds. And it'll be interesting to see, really.
Doc, you have any thoughts on this Western Conference final?
Honestly, I have kind of not been paying attention. I've been working on a lot of.
Okay. I didn't know if you stuck around to talk.
You're honest.
I didn't know if you stuck around to talk about the series or not, so I was giving you a shot there. But if you're busy, go ahead.
I was just listening. No.
Okay.
I was just listening.
All right, we'll let you go.
Who's in the series? Who's in the fight?
Oh, jeez. No, forget it. Go away. Go do your work.
Get back to work.
Let the big boys talk about the series, and you go back and do your little admin thing. I'm sure you're getting death threats by now, so go deal with that.
Oh yeah, and that's on the short end. So.
Yeah. By the way, get used to that. It's not going to get any better season 2.
I already am.
All right. Let's flip over to Detroit and Pittsburgh. We'll get Knucklers in here to talk about that series. Sorry, not Detroit, Pittsburgh. Detroit and Montreal. 2 teams who I think Montreal certainly looked like the stronger team in their series, but yeah, Pittsburgh Detroit was a damn good matchup. What's your early take on Detroit Montreal?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, Knucklers, go ahead.
Well, I have that bias towards Detroit. I'm a big fan of them. The thing to focus on for Detroit is that first line. They've been struggling to the first 2 rounds, so it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust and come out during the Eastern Conference Finals. Montreal, hell of a story. They said they were 4-16 to start the season, and then had a new owner come in, turn that around with good signings and chemistry. I think it's going to be a good series. I said earlier on the show that I do see this going 6 or 7,
right.
But that's really going to be if Detroit's first line shows up. They're going to have to show up if they're going to have a chance to win this series. So that will be interesting. And on my series, I don't know much about Vancouver. I'm just going to show up and play. I didn't get to watch a lot of their streams, but
right.
As Nasty said earlier, we're not going to underestimate anybody. So looking forward to the challenge, and Aubrey's back. I'm sure he's excited to get some games.
And Pucker, what's your take on that series? Pucker?
My mic was off.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay, so yeah, I think Detroit definitely has a chance to win that series. It'll be interesting to see how these two teams match up. Montreal was very impressive in this first in the second round. If they're able to keep that offense going, Detroit's going to have their handful if they're struggling offensively. They definitely have, I think, an advantage defensively, but if Montreal finds a way to put the puck in the back of the net like they did in round 2, Detroit might find themselves going home in this series.
And finally, Fort, what's your take on this one? Montreal obviously done a hell of a job getting that team where they are right now. Do you see them as the favorite, or is it still Detroit's to win or lose?
Truthfully, I think it's. I don't know. I'm biased here. I've kind of been following Montreal all season. I've kind of dealt with that adversity in the past. To come in and own a team that's not very strong and then turn them around or try to at least. In my case, it wasn't the greatest, but Jordan, he's doing a great thing over there. I think truthfully. Really, I think it's Montreal's series to win. I think Montreal, they've got something that I haven't really seen out of a lot of these teams. They're still riding that chance. If you talk to any of those guys, they're still the 4 and 14 team. They're a 4 and 16 team that they were when they started. They don't take much for granted. Detroit's gonna have a hard time. This next series. If I had to say, I'd probably say Montreal in 6.
All right, guys. Well, going to wrap this one up here. And listen, thanks again for helping out with all these live games. It's been a real interesting and real fun 2 weeks. And let's do it again next week. We've got your show coming up this weekend, Fort. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, we're going to have 2 shows.
Okay.
We're going to have one. We'll have a show tomorrow night. Keith, as in Best There Is, and Scott Powers will be on the show talking plans for next season and, get some insight on, the route they want to go with the league. And then, obviously, we'll have our nightly Sunday podcast where we're going to throw, as White Knucklers knows, everybody knows, the whole controversy with WEHL. We're going to kind of throw them in our hot seat, and we're gonna get down to the nitty gritty of what was really going on with the whole WEHL thing. Kind of get the information on that, break down the second round of the playoffs, and just keep growing. I can't thank T-Sibs you enough, everybody in the media team. That to start off, it was just 3 guys that wanted to kind of help put something together, and at any given night now, I've got a million people tagging me. When's your next show? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And it's like, I can only interview so many people at once, guys. So, and I appreciate all the help that we get, and everybody watching the stream, thanks for supporting. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. At 150 subscribers, we're going to do a giveaway that's, it's for you guys. We've said this from the beginning. This isn't for us. This is for you. So thanks, T-Sibs, for, helping us, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's been a lot of fun. We'll watch out for your shows coming up this week. And, of course, we'll be back next week with the semifinal actions, the conference finals, and have some fun bringing all those games. We thank all of you for watching out there and listening to our broadcast, and we're going to be back for more of it come next week. We'll have Chow back, hopefully, and Fort Pucker will be here, and hopefully more White Knucklers. And for that entire crew, this is T-Sib saying so long. We thank you for watching the World E-Hockey League here on the YouTube channel. And we will be back next week for the conference finals, as we said. Until then, T-Sib saying so long, and thanks again for watching the playoffs right here and for being on WorldEHockey.com.